This is a show about poetry, about people who write poems, and today we're going to do a series of poems by different authors: Edgar Allan Poe, Ernest Lawrence Thayer, and what I am trying to do in this series of poems is to bring you the feeling that the authors of these poems were trying to put on paper. And the first poem is a poem I think you'll kind of like it. It's well, why don't we just watch it? Here it is now. Once upon a midnight dreary, as I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volumes of forgotten lore, as I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis a visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. Only this and nothing more. Distinctly I remember 'twas in the late December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I sought to borrow from the book surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, and the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain filled me with fantastic terrors never known before. And to stop the beating of my heart, I kept repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. Some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. Only this and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," I said, "or madam, truly, your forgiveness I implore. But the truth is, I was napping, and you came so gently tapping, and so faintly you came rapping that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into the darkness peering, long I stood there, wandering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore." This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, "Lenore." Merely this and nothing more. Back into my chamber turning, all my soul within me burning, soon again I heard a tapping, somewhat louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely that is something of our window lattice. Let me see then what the thread is and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment and this mystery explore. 'tis the wind and nothing more. Open wide I flung the shutter. There were many a flirt and flutter. In there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obvious matey. Not a moment stopped or stayed he. But with mien of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door, perched upon the bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. And then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and grim decorum of the countenance of war, though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, I said, art sure no craven, ghastly grim, an ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on this night's Platonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Much I marveled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy it bore. For we cannot help believing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such name as nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on that placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul, in that one word he did outpour. Nothing further than he uttered, not a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. And then the bird said, nevermore. Startled by the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken, doubtless said I what it utters is its only stock and store. Caught from some unhappy master, whom unmercifully disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his song one burden bore, till the dirges of his heart that melancholy burden bore. I never, nevermore. But the raven still beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. And then upon the cushion sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy under fancied thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking nevermore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing to the fowl whose fury eyes now burnt into my bosom's core. This and more I sat dividing, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated o'er. On the velvet violet lining that the lamplight gloated o'er. She shall press, ah, nevermore. And then methought the air grew denser, perfumed by some unseen censer, swung by sapien, whose footfalls now tinkle on the tufted floor. Wrench, I cried, thy God has lent thee. By the angels he has sent thee. Respite, respite, and kind up a night, and forget this lost Lenore. Gwath, oh, Gwath and kind up a night, and forget this lost Lenore. Quote the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still if bird or devil, whether tempest sent, or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate and all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there peace in heaven? Tell me truly, I implore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, by the heavens that bend above us, by the God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distant Aden he shall clasp a sainted maiden, clasp the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore. Quote the raven, nevermore. Be this word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked up starting. Get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore, and leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul has spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from off my heart and take thy form from off my door. Quote the raven, nevermore. But the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on that placid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor. And my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. Oh God, the emotion, the emotion, the ability for Edgar Allan Poe to create poetry with such feeling and such emotion. Absolutely magnificent, magnificent. And the feeling he brings out in his poetry is just powerful. It's so powerful. And the hard thing to understand is Edgar Allan Poe always wanted to write poetry, and he was forced to write prose to make a living. Gosh, the emotion, I love it. It's overwhelming. It just gets to me. Now I'd like to change the emotion, the kind of emotion that we have. Still emotion, but what's coming up is a poem by Ernest Lawrence Thayer, and yeah, funny. It's different. There's a lot about it, and I just hope that it kind of makes you chuckle. So let's watch Casey at the Bat by Ernest Lawrence Thayer.
It seemed extremely murky to the Mudville nine that day, for the score stood 2-4 with about 1 inning left to play. So when Cooney died on second and Burroughs did the same, a pallor reeked the features of the patrons of the game. Now a straggling few got up to go, leaving there the rest with hope which springs eternal within the human breast. And they thought, if only Casey could get a whack at that, they'd put up even money now with Casey at the bat. But Flynn preceded Casey, and likewise so did Blake. Now the former was a puddin', and the latter was a fake. So on that stricken multitude, a deathly silence sat, and there seemed little chance of Casey's getting to the bat. Hey, but Flynn let drive a single, to the wonderment of all. And the much despised Blakey, he tore the cover off the ball. And when the dust had lifted and they saw what had occurred, there was Blakey, safe at second, and Flynn was hugging third. So from that frightened multitude, there come a joyous yell. It rumbled on the mountain tops and rattled o'er the dell. It struck upon the hillside and rebounded on the flat. 'Cause Casey, mighty Casey, was advancing to the bat. Now there was ease in Casey's manner as he walked up to the plate, and there was pride in Casey's bearing, and a smile on Casey's face. And when responding to the crowd, he lightly doffed his hat. No stranger in the crowd could doubt. Sure, it was Casey at the bat. Now 10,000 eyes were on him as he rubbed his hands in dirt, and 5,000 tongues applauded when he wiped him on his shirt. And when the lightning pitcher ground the ball into his hip, defiance gleamed in Casey's eyes. A sneer curled Casey's lips. And now the leather-covered steer came hurtling through the air, and Casey stood and watched in haughty grandeur there. Close by the dirty batsman, the ball unheeded sped. "'Tain't my style," said Casey. "Strike one," the umpire said. And from the benches black with people there came a muffled roar, like the pounding of the storm waves on a stern and distant shore. "Kill him! Kill the umpire!" someone shouted from the stands, and it was likely that they'd killed him had not Casey raised his hand. With a smile of Christian charity, great Casey's vicious shone. He stilled the rising turmoil. He made the game go on. He signaled to the pitcher, and again the spheroid flew. But Casey still ignored it, and the umpire said, "Strike two!" "Forward!" cried the maddened thousands, and the echo answered, "Forward!" But one scornful look from Casey, and the audience was awed. They saw his face grow stern and cold. They saw his muscles strain. They knew that Casey wouldn't let the ball go by again. Now the sneer was gone from Casey's lips. His teeth were clenched in hate, and he pounds with cool vengeance his bat upon the plate. And now the pitcher has the ball, and now he lets it go. And now the air is shattered by the force of Casey's blow. Oh, somewhere in this favored land, the sun is shining bright, and a band is playing somewhere, and somewhere hearts are light, and somewhere men are laughing, and somewhere children shout. But there is no joy in Mudville. Mighty Casey has struck out.
Oh, gee. I tell you, that's not the... I go stark raving mad. I laugh at that every time I watch it, and you know, it's called America humor, whether it's Ernest Lyons there or Bennett Cerf, you know, humor is humor and it's funny. And as with all poets, the life of, the story of Ernest Lawrence Thayer is a fascinating one. He's quite a life history, and what inspired him to write that poem is, I tell you, and there's a little bit of bigotry in here, and it's hard to see sometimes, but by golly, that's funny. And I want to do another one for you, not on the show, but sometime I want to do Casey's Revenge, and you'll love that one too. But when we talk about humor, we laugh, right? There are also some sad things in life. And this next poem, in a way, is very, very hard. But you gotta consider it real serious. And there's too much truth in here and an awful lot of sadness. But if you want to pay attention, and pay attention well, please learn something from the next poem. It's written by Anonymous. It was published in papers throughout the United States and signed Anonymous. But it's a very powerful poem. And well, just watch this. The name of this poem is Cocaine. My name is Cocaine. Call me Coke for short. I came to your country without a passport. Since then I've made lots of scum rich. Many have been murdered and found in a ditch. I'm more valued than diamonds. I'm more treasured than gold. Try me just once and you'll be sold. I'll make a schoolboy forget his books. I'll make a beauty queen forget her looks. I'll take a renowned speaker and make him a bore. I'll take a housewife and make her a whore. I'll make a school teacher forget how to teach. And I'll make a preacher not want to preach. I'll take all your rent money, and when you're evicted, I'll murder your babies, or they'll be born addicted. I'll make you rob and steal and kill. When you're in my power, you have no will. Remember, my friend, my name is Big C. When you're under my power, you'll never be free. I've destroyed many actors, politicians, and heroes. I've depleted bank accounts from millions to zero. I make shooting and stabbing a common affair. When I take charge, you haven't a prayer. Now that you know me, what will you do? The decision is yours. It's all up to you. The day you decide to sit in my saddle, and the decision is one that no one can straddle. So remember, my friend, and you remember well, when you ride with cocaine, you're headed for hell. God, if you have a problem, there's only two people who can help. The good Lord and you yourself. You can help yourself. That poem is hard, and I know it's hard, but I wanted to help somebody. I'd like to have it help a lot of people, but if it helps anybody, I'm grateful. And there is, well, let me explain it this way. It was battered and scarred, and the auctioneer thought that it was scarcely worth his while to spend his time on an old violin, but he held it up with a smile. "What am I bidding, good people?" he say. "Who'll start the bidding for me? $1? Only one? Who'll make it $2? $2. And who'll make it $3? $3 once? $3 twice? Going for $3. But no. In the room far back, a gray-haired man came forward and picked up the bow, and wiping the dust from the old violin and tightening the loose strings, played a melody, soft and sweet, and just as pure as an angel sings. And when the music ceased, the auctioneer, in a voice that was quiet and low, said, "What am I bid for this old violin?" as he held it up with the bow. $1,000? Who'll make it $2? $2,000. And who'll make it $3? $3,000 once? $3,000 twice? Going and going and gone. And the people cheered, but some of them cried, "We don't quite understand what changed its worth." Swift came reply, the touch of the master's hand, and many a man with his life out of tune, who is battered and scarred with sin, is auctioned cheap to a thoughtless crowd, much like that old violin. A mess of pottage, a glass of wine, a game, and he travels on. He's going once. I didn't tell anybody about my monkey business. Yeah.
But he's doing your business now.
Okay. That's great. Well, as I said, this is just plain Bill, and his poetry was just plain Bill Frank. And I have Frank Quinn with me, who likes poetry. But more than that, we like each other.
We do.
Well, we're young friends, aren't we?
We're young friends.
Right. You heard of all the old friends. We're young friends.
We're young friends. And you have a special poem that you said you would recite for me.
Yeah.
I forget the name of it now, but I'm sure if I ask you, you'll remember the name of this
The
poem.
Vagabond's House?
The Vagabond's House.
Yeah.
Because you kind of mentioned
Before I do that, I told you that there was no such thing as strangers, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
There's no such thing as strangers. Strangers are only friends we haven't met yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So remember that, because very, very important. Yeah, we're going to do a poem tonight, and it's The Vagabond's House.
And you mentioned to me, I forget the name of the author of that poem, the poet? What?
It's anonymous. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's Don Blanding.
You told me that, right.
Don Blanding. Don Blanding, Bill's Dream House.
Right.
Oh, yeah, this was written quite a ways before the book and before the motion picture.
Because when you presented me, you said, "Now, Frank, do you know what a vagabond is?"
Right. A wanderer, a drifter.
A drifter.
But
And
more than that, he's a dreamer.
Right.
And he's dreaming about this poem.
About what he's going to do with his life, right?
He has his house. He wants to,
Right.
he wants
At
to
some
build his
point.
house.
And that's important, because a vagabond is a wanderer.
He's a
And
wanderer.
he's going to settle down, and this is what it's going to be.
Drifter. Right.
Excellent. I'd love to hear it.
It's an honor.
I'll pay attention, and you can do it. Thank you very much, Bill.
Yeah. The Vagabond's House. by Don Blanding. When I have a house, and I someday may, well, it will suit my fancy in every way. I'll fill it with things that have caught my eye as I drifted from Iceland to Molokai. Oh, it won't be correct or in period style. But oh, how I've thought for a long, long while of all the crannies and all the nooks, of all the bookshelves and all the books. A big round table with deep, soft chairs and a Chinese rug at the foot of the stairs. Ah, it's an old, old rug from Fa Chao Wan that a Chinese princess once walked on. And my house will stand on the side of a hill by a slow, broad river, deep and still, with a long, tall pine on guard nearby where birds can sing and storm winds cry. A flagstone walk with lazy curves will lead to a door where a pan head serves as a knocker, like a vibrant drum that will let me know when a friend has come. And the door will creak as I open it wide to welcome you to the cheer inside. And I'll have good friends that will sit and chat, or only sit when it comes to that by a fireplace where the fir logs blaze and the smoke rolls up in a weaving haze. And I'll have a woodbox, scarred and rough, for leaves and bark and odorous stuff like resinous knots, cones and gums to throw in a fire when winter comes. And I hope that a cricket will stay around, for I like its creaky, lonesome sound. And I'll have driftwood powder to throw in the logs, and a shaggy rug for a couple of dogs. Boreas, winner of prize and cup. And Mickey, a lovable gutter pup. Thoroughbreds, both of them, right from the start. One by breeding, and the other by heart. And there are times when only a dog will do as a friend when you're broken, sad and blue. And the day's all long, but he won't care if you break and cry and gripe and swear, for he'll let you know as he licks your hand that he's downright sorry and he understands. And on a bench, I'll have a box inlaid with dragon plaques of milk-white jade for my own particular brand of cigarettes brought from the Pharaoh's land. And a cloisonade bowl on a lizard skin just to flick my cigarette ashes in. And a squat blue jar for a certain blend of pipe tobacco that I'll have to send to this quaint old chap that I chanced to meet in his fusty shop on a London street. And a long, low shelf of teak will hold my best-loved books in leather and gold. And magazines on a bow-legged stand and a polylot mixture close at hand. And on the table, there will be a rich bouquet that I think the pixies must have made. Dull gold threads on blues and grays, weave patterns of puck, magic maze. And on the mantelpiece, I'll have a place for a little mud god with a painted face. It was given to me oh so long ago by a Philippine maid in Olangapo. And there, within a lazy reach, I'll have a bulging bowl of Indian beach filled with things that are good to munch, like hickory nuts that crack and crunch, big fat raisins and sun-dried dates, and curious fruit from the Malay Strait, maple sugar and cookies brown, and good hard cider to wash them down, wine-sapped apples that are pick of the crop, and ears of corn to shell and pop, with plenty of butter and lots of salt. You don't get filled, it's not my fault. And there, where the shadows fall, I've planned to have a magnificent concert grand with polished wood and ivory keys for wild discordant rhapsodies, for wailing minor Hindu songs, for Chinese chants and clanging gongs, for flippant jazz and lullabies, and movie things that I'll improvise to play the long gray dusk away and say goodbye to another day. Now, pictures. I think I'll have but three. One in oil of a windswept sea with flying scud and waves with white. Why, I know a chap who can paint it just right in lapis blues and deep jade greens. A great big smashing fine marine who'll make you feel the spray in your face. I'll hang it over my fireplace. Now my second picture, it'll be a freakish thing, as gaudy and bright as a macaw's wing. An impressionistic smear called sin. A nude on a striped zebra skin by a Danish girl that I met in France. All my respectable friends will look askance at the purple eyes and the scarlet hair, at the pallid face and the evil stare. It's a sinister, beautiful vampire face. I shouldn't have it around the place, but I like, while I loathe that beastly thing. And I guess that's the way one feels about sin. But the picture that I love best of all will hang alone on my study wall, where the sunset glow and the moon's cold gleam will fall on the face and make it seem that the eyes in the picture are meeting mine, and the lips are curved in a fine, sweet rhyme. It's a wistful, tender, provocative smile that has stirred my heart for a long, long while. Or it's a sketch of a girl who has loved too well to tie me down to that bit of hell that a drifter knows when he's being held by the soft, strong chain that passion weld. It was best for her, and for me, I know that she measured my love and bade me go. For we both have that great illusion yet, unsoiled, unspoiled by vain regret. And I won't deny that it makes me sad to know that I've missed what I might have had. It's a clean, sweet memory, quite apart. And I was faithful in my heart. Now, all of these things I will have about, not a single one can I do without. Cedar and sandalwood chips to burn in the tarnished bowl of a copper urn. My paperweight, it's a meteorite that seared and scarred the sky one night. A moral kiss, my paper knife. It once slit the throat of a Raja's wife. And the beams of my house will be of fragrant wood that once in a giant jungle stood as brave tall trees where leopards crouched, where parrots screamed and a black man crouched. And the roof of my house will have a rakish dip that leads to an eaves where the rain will drip in a damp, persistent, tuneful way. It's a pleasant sound on a dreary day. And I hope that a shingle will be loose somewhere to scream like a banshee in despair when the wind is high and the storm gods race. And I am snug by my fireplace. And I hope a couple of birds will nest around my house. Well, I'll do my best to make them happy so that every year they raise their brood of fledglings here. And when I have a house, I'll suit myself, and I'll have what I call my condiment shelf, filled with all manner of herbs and spice, curry and chutney for meats and rice, pots and bottles of extract rare, onions and garlic, both will be there, soyo and saffron and savory goo, and things that I bought from an old Hindu. Ginger and syrup and quaint stone jars, almonds and dates and tinsel bars, Astrakhan caviar, highly prized, citrus and orange peels crystallized, anchovy paste and poha jam, basil and chili and marjoram, pickles and cheese from every land, and flavors that come from Samarkand. And hung from a string on a nearby hook will be a dog-eared, well-thumbed book, pasted full of recipes from France and Spain and the Caribbees. Roots and leaves and herbs to use in curious soups and old ragouts. And I'll have a cook I'll name Old Joy, a sleek, fat, yellow-faced Chinese boy who can roast a pig or mix a drink. You can't improve on that, I think. And on a gray stone hearth, I'll have a mat for a yellow, swaggering cat with a war-scarred face from 1,000 fights with neighbors' cats on moonlight nights. A wise old Tom who can hold his own and make my dogs let him alone. And I'll have a window seat, broad and deep, where I can sprawl and read and sleep. With the windows placed so I can turn and watch the sunset blaze and burn beyond high peaks that scar the sky like bare wolf fangs that defy the very gods. I'll have a nook for a savage idol that I took from a ruined temple in Peru. A demon chaser named Manchu, who will guard my house by night and day and keep all evil things away. Pewter and bronze and hammered brass, old carved wood and gleaming glass, candles and polychrome candlesticks, peasant lamps and floating wicks, dragons in silk on a mandarin suit from a chest that's filled with a vagabond's loot. All of these beautiful, useless things that a vagabond's aimless drifting brings. And when my house is all complete, why, I'll stretch me out on my window seat with a favorite book and a cigarette and a long, cold drink old Joy will get. And I'll look about my bachelor nest while the sun goes zooming down in the west, and the hot, gold light will fall on my face and make me think of some heathen place that I've failed to see, that I've missed some way, a place that I've planned to be some day. And I'll feel the lure of it drawing me. Oh, damn, I know what the end will be. I'll go. And my house will fall away, while the mice by night and the moths by day will nibble the covers off all my books, and the spiders weave in their shadowed nooks. My dogs, I'll see that they have a home while I follow the sun, while I drift and roam to the ends of the earth like a chip in a stream, like a straw in a wind, like a vagrant dream. And the thought will strike with a sharp, swift pain that I probably never will build again. This house that I have in some far-off day, oh well, it was only a dream house anyway. And that's the poem, Frank.
Bill, thank you. That's quite a poem, quite a story.
Yeah, isn't it? This guy is...
Excellent.
He's quite a dreamer, I would say, huh?
Well, you know, as I'm listening to you say this, his dreams are also his memories.
Oh, yeah.
And what he put in his house are all the things that mattered to him. So all of his experiences from everywhere he's been somehow fit into this house of his. Yeah. Quite the story.
Yeah, you know, you take on the persona of this character, right?
Right.
And I don't know how people, I don't know how you, but to me, I'm him.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right.
I'm this guy, and you know, I got a bunch of stuff in that old box. It's useless, and I've collected, you know. I'm all wandering all over.
Well, I'm thinking of my own home, thinking, you know, that's where you put your treasures. The things that matter and mean something to you is what goes into your home. And that's kind of what he's saying. These are all the things that matter to him and have meant something in his life to him.
Well, you know, you make me feel good when you say, as I was listening to the poem, I thought about my own.
Okay.
You know? I mean, that tells me that
someone besides myself can relate to this guy, the guy who I think I am.
You are. And someone can walk into your home, and just by being there, there's all these different parts of you.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
because you're there. That's how you express yourself.
I think everybody, I think everybody who listens can see a part of themselves somewhere in that home.
Well, he's been everywhere.
Yeah, he's been around.
So you can envy him, you know,
Yeah.
because he certainly has a lot of the riches that life can offer. But in his own mind, that's where his home is right now.
Yeah.
Because he put it all together and said, this is what matters to me.
Yeah, and he not only describes the things he has in his home, but I think he kind of describing what they mean to him. Like these pictures are meaningful to him.
Right.
This bulging bowl of stuff is meaningful to him because it doesn't come from here. It comes from the Malay Strait, or it comes from here and there.
Right.
So, you know.
But you know he's been there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a
Yeah.
piece of his life he put in his home.
He was
That's
there.
what's important.
Yeah, yeah. And it brings out what poetry is all about. It brings out, you know, I've had people say to me, Bill, I don't like poetry. I don't like it at all. But I like what you do, you know? And sometimes there are different kinds of poems. You know, I like different kinds of poems. But the poems that tell a story,
Well, they reach into your soul, though, Bill. This is more than a story.
reach down into your toenails.
It does. For every one of us, we take something from it, and it says something to us.
It does.
That is personal.
Yeah, it's very,
No?
it becomes very, very personal.
Yeah.
It becomes, well, as I said, as I was reciting this poem, I was this guy. There's no doubt in my mind.
Right.
I was
You
he.
were living his story.
Yeah, his story. And
Yeah.
I think we've all, you've been around the country. You've traveled, and you know what a vagabond is. Now, a year ago, I went out to California on my motorcycle. I'm going out
Did you
there.
really?
Yeah, I'm going out there again in August. Well, I did 10,500 miles. I went down to Key West and then around there on my,
way.
my little old Howard. And,
So you could write your own little story, couldn't you, huh?
well, I tell you, the
You got a
stories
load of experiences there.
the stories that these guys tell are a little bit more, a little bit more than I can do.
Well, their horizon may have been a little bit broader, but you've got your own stories, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. Half froze to death out there in the middle of March. Yeah.
Now, let me ask you,
Yeah.
because I've certainly heard you recite poetry,
Yeah.
and it's amazing, because I have no memory at all, and here you are remembering all these. Have you written your own poetry?
Some.
You've done some of your own writing.
Yeah.
Well,
But,
sometime I'd like to
nothing
hear
that was
your own.
published. Nothing.
Doesn't have to
well,
be
I don't
published.
show it to people actually.
Oh,
I hide it. I'm a closet poet. Keep it in the closet. Yeah.
No way.
Oh yeah. No. There's so much good poetry out there. And not only that, but I kind of enjoy bringing other people's
Poems to
poetry
life.
To life.
And you do that.
Well, yeah. I try to as much as possible bring out the meaning of the poet, what the poet was trying to say when he wrote that poem. They're dead now. Some of them are dead now, you know.
Right.
And you don't know. But the only thing you can do is delve deep into the meaning of each word. And well, you heard the poem about this vagabond.
Right. Well, it's funny because we all have such an image of a vagabond
Yeah.
as a shiftless, wandering type of person
Oh yeah.
who really has no roots and has no meaning to life. And yet in this story, he speaks to all of us.
Not only that, he does speak to us.
He speaks
But-
about us.
He speaks about us, exactly. And we can, he becomes part of us, but even more than that, we become part of him. We
Right.
become part of that poem. There's different parts of it. I mean, just the idea that he wants a noodle on a zebra skin, right?
Right.
And then he says, I know it's wrong, I hate it. I love it, but I hate it.
Right.
But that's the way one feels about sin.
And that's the struggle of human life, though. I mean, that is the struggle that all of us go through constantly.
That's exactly
what he's writing about,
yeah,
you know?
that's exactly the struggle.
No, he captures the human experience, and as far as I was listening, I thought, that says it all.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's fun, you know. There are so many poems like that, as you know. You know, because...
I will read them, but I'll never be able to recite them because I can't remember them. I don't know how you do it.
No, I don't have that good a memory. I get introduced to my family at the breakfast table every morning, so I don't have that good a memory.
That's just plain Bill.
Yeah, right. Hey, you know, he told me a phone number, and I'll remember it for a minute, 2.5, 3 minutes. But to learn the poetry, you have to concentrate on it. You have to regimentate yourself to learn. I'm going to do some more poetry for Bryant over here. We'll do the Shooting of Dan McGrew. We'll do the Facing the Barroom Floor. We'll do all kinds of them.
Some classics.
Some of the classics, right?
Right.
The cremation of Sam McGee. Well, I did that one, but the Facing the Barroom Floor is unbelievable.
I've heard you do that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And we might even go out on that one. It's a balmy summer evening. And the good crowd is there.
That's a preview. Don't give them more than a preview.
Give them, okay.
Make them come back, Bill.
There you
We
go.
want them to come back.
You want to see the face in the barroom floor? Well, we'll draw it for you in verbiage,
Excellent.
in words.
Right.
And you will actually
You'll
see.
have a picture.
Yeah, you'll have a picture of the face in the barroom floor. And there's another poem about...
Well, I gotta say thank you, and we have to end.
Hey, here
But
we
it's
go.
been a real experience,
Yeah,
Bill.
down the road, on the road, in the window. We'll see you down the road. Hey, it was fun doing the show with.
Well, thank you for reading to me. I appreciate you giving me a little piece of life.
Did you enjoy the poem?
I did.
Robert W. Service wrote a great many epic poems, and one that I like very much, and at this time I'd like to dedicate it to the working man, the blue-collar worker, the man who works with his hands, and it's called The Song of the Wage Slave by Robert W. Service. Here it is. When the long, long day is over and the big boss gives me my pay, I hope there won't be hellfire, as some of the parsons say. And I hope that it won't be heaven with some of the parsons I've met. I just want quiet, rest, and forget. Look at my face, toil-filled. And look at my calloused hands. Master, I've done thy bidding. Lot in the many lands. Lot for the little masters, big-bellied they'd be, and rich. I did their desire for a daily hire, and I die like a dog in a ditch. I've used the strength thou hast given me. Thou knowest I did not shirk. 80 years of labor. Thine is a long day's work. And now, big master, I'm broken and bent and twisted and scarred, but I've held my job, and thou knowest. Thou canst not judge me hard. Thou knowest my sins are many, and I've often played the fool. Whiskey and cards and women, they made me the devil's tool. And I was just like a child with money. I flung it away with a curse, feasting a flaunting parasite or glutting a harlot's purse. Then back to the woods repentant, back to the mill or the mine. I, the worker of workers, everything in my line. Everything hard but head work. I'd no more brains than a kid. A brute with brute strength to labor, doing as I was bid. Living in camp with menfolk, a loveless and lonely life, never knowing the kiss of a sweetheart, never caress of a wife. A brute with brute strength to labor, and they were so far above, I'd gladly gone to the gallows for just one touch of love. I, with the strength of 2 men, savage and shy and wild, but oh, how I treasured a woman and the sweet, soft kiss of a child. Well, 'tis thou, world, and thou know it. I blaspheme, and my ways be rude, but I've lived my life as I found it, and I've done my best to be good. I, the primitive toiler, half naked and grim to the eyes, sweating it deep in the ditches, swining its dark in the skies, hurtling through the forest, spanning tumultuous streams, deep in the ditch, building o'er me places fairer than dreams, drilling the rock to the ore bed, driving the road through the fens, resolute, dumb, uncomplaining, a man in a world of men. Master, I've filled my contract, wrought in the many lands. Not by my sins will ye judge me, but by the work of my hands. Master, I've done thy bidding, and the light is low in the west. and the long, long shift is over. Master, I've earned it. Rest. Master, I've earned it. Rest. Not by my sins will you judge me, but by the work of my hands. Robert W. Service, I think he was one of the great poets. He's been ridiculed and he's been everything. Robert W. Service was a Canadian. He wrote about the gold rush and people moiling for gold, and so much about the North Country, the coal country, and it is cold up in the North Country. It's very, very cold. But there's one man who could not tolerate the cold. He could not tolerate the cold in any way at all. And this next poem, Robert W. Service wrote about the man who could not tolerate the cold. And the poem is The Cremation of Sam McGee by Robert W. Service. And this is it. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. And the Arctic trails have their secret tales, which would make your blood run cold. And the Northern Lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was the night on the marge of Lake LaBarge when I cremated Sam McGee. Now, Sam McGee came from Tennessee, where the cotton blooms and blows. And why he left his home in the South to roam around the pole, God only knows. For he was always cold, but his lust for gold seemed to hold him in a spell. And then he'd often say, in his homely way, "Bill, I'd sooner lived in hell." Now on Christmas Day, we were mushing our way over the Dawson Trail, and talking it cold through your pocket's fold, it stabbed like a driven nail. And if our eyes we closed, the lashes, they froze, till sometimes we couldn't see. And it wasn't much fun, but the only one to whimper was Sam McGee. And late that night, we were packed in tight in our robes beneath the snow. And the dogs were fed, and the stars overhead were dancing heel and toe. And he turned to me, and Bill, says he, "I'll cash in this trip, I guess. And if I do, I'm asking that you won't refuse my last request." Well, he looked so low that I couldn't say no. And he says in kind of a moan, "It's as cursed cold, and it's got right hold, and I'm chilled clean through to the bone. Yet it ain't being dead that's my awful dread. It's the icy grave that pains. So I'm asking you to swear, foul or fair, that you cremate my last remains." Now, a pal's last need is a thing to heed, so I swore I would not fail. And we were on at the streak of dawn Oh, God, he looked ghastly pale. And he clutched to the sleigh, and he raved all day of his home in Tennessee. But by nightfall, a corpse was all that was left of Sam McGee. And now there wasn't a breath in this land of death. So I hurried, horror-driven, with a corpse half hid that I couldn't get rid because of a promise given. It was lashed in a sleigh, and it seemed to say, you may tax your brawn and your brain, but your promise true, so it's up to you to cremate these last remains. Now, a promise made is a debt unpaid, and the trail has its own stern code. So in the days to come, though my lips were numb, in my heart how I cursed that load. And in the long, long nights, by the lone firelight, and the huskies all in a ring, sang out their woes to these homeless snows. Oh God, how I loathe that thing. And every day that quiet clay seemed to heavier and heavier grow. But on I went, though the dogs were spent and the grub was getting low. And the trail was bad, and I felt half mad, but I swore I wouldn't give in. And I'd often sing to that hateful thing, and it hearkened with a grin. Till I got to the marge of Lake LaBarge, and there the derelict lay. It was jammed in the ice, but I saw in it thrice. It was called the Alice May. So I looked at it, and I thought for a bit, and I looked at my frozen chum. And there sat I, in a sudden cry, is my crematorium. Now some planks I tore from the cabin floor, and I lit the boiler fire. And some coals I found that were lying around, and I heaped the fuel higher. And the flames they soared and the furnace roared, such a blaze you seldom see. And I burrowed a hole in the burning coal, and I shoved in Sam McGee. Then I took a hike, for I didn't like to hear him sizzle so. And the skies they scowled, and the huskies howled, and the wind began to blow. It was icy cold, but the hot sweat rolled down my face, and I don't know why. And the greasy smoke in an inky cloak went streaking down the sky. Oh, I don't know how long in the snow I wrestled with grisly fear, but the stars came out and they danced about. Again, I ventured near. I was sick with dread, but I bravely said, it's time I peeped inside, for I guess he's cooked. And it's time I looked. Hear the door, I opened wide. And there sat Sam, sitting cool and calm in the heart of the furnace roar. And he wore a smile you could see for a mile. And he said, Bill, close the door, for it's warm in here, but I greatly fear that he'll let in the cool and the storm. Since I left Plum Tree down in Tennessee, it's the first time I've been warm. Oh, there are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. And the Arctic Trail have their secret tales, which would make your blood run cold. And the Northern Lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was the night on the marge of Lake LaBarge, when I cremated Sam McGee. That's funny. You tell me that Robert Service didn't have his tongue in his cheek when he was writing that poem. I think he's just pulling the audience leg something awful. Sam McGee came from Tennessee, where the cotton blooms and blows. Oh yeah. It's the first time he was warm. Yeah, I mean, it's warm in that oven. You better believe it. Oh, that's kind of funny. But Robert W. Service wrote many, many poems like that, all about the North country. It's a hard country, and the mother's a bloody brood, and the icy arms hold hidden charms. Oh, for the greedy, sinful and lewd. That's Robert W. Service. He knows how to write some epic poetry that tells a story. And there was another man, much like Robert W. Service, who wrote much epic poetry and poetry that tells a story. The next poem is a poem about two men who hated each other. And, well, let's just watch it. This is the ballad of East and West by Rudyard Kipling. Let's show it. This is the Ballad of East and West by Rudyard Kipling. Or East is East, and West is West, and never the twain shall meet, till earth and sky stand presently on God's great judgment seat. And there is neither East nor West, nor border, nor breed, nor birth, when two strong men stand face to face, though they come from the ends of the earth. Now Kamel was out with 20 men to raise the border side, and he lifted the colonel's mare. She was the colonel's pride. He lifted her out of the stable door between the dawn and day, and he turned the cockins on her feet, and he rode her far away. Now up and spoke the colonel's son, who leads the troops and guides. Is there never a man of all my men who knows where Kamel hides? And up and spoke Muhammad Khan, the son of the Rais Ladar. If ye can track the morning mist, you'll know where his pickets are. At dusky Aries and Elazari, by dawn he's in Bon Air. But he must go by Fort Baluk for his place to fare. So if ye can gallop to Fort Baluk as fast as the bird can fly, by the favor of God you'll cut him off ere he reach the tongue of Jagai. But if he should win the tongue of Jagai, swiftly turn ye then, for the length and the breadth of the grisly plain is sown with Kamel's men. Or there's a rock to the left and a rock to the right and a low lean thorn between, and ye can hear a breech bolt snick where never a man is seen. Now the colonel's son has taken a horse, and a raw, rough dun was he, with a mouth of a bell and a heart of hell and a head of a gallows tree. Now the colonel's son to the fort has won, where they bid him stay and eat.
But he on the trail of a border thief, he sits not long in his meat. So it's up and away from Fort Baluch as fast as he can fly till he is aware of his father's mare. In the gut of the tongue of Jugai. Till he is aware of his father's mare with Camel upon her back. And as soon as he spies the whites of her eyes, he made his pistol crack. He fired once and he fired twice, but the whistling ball went wide. "You shoot like a soldier," shouted Camel. "Now show if you can ride." So it's up and over the tongue of Jugai, as blown dust devils go. The Dunya went like a stag of 10, and the mare like a barren doe. Now the Dunya pulled against his bit and slugged his head above, while the mare, she played with her snaffle bar, as a maiden plays with a glove. Or there's a rock to the left and a rock to the right and a low lean thorn between. And thrice he's heard a breech bolt snick, and never a man was seen. Now they'd ridden the low moon out of the sky, and their hoofs beat up the dawn. The Dunya went like a wounded bull and the mare like a new risen fawn. Now the Dunya fell in a watercourse. In a woeful heap fell he. And Camel, he turned the red mare back to pull the rider free. He kicked a pistol from his hand. Small room was there to strive. 'Twas only by favor of mine, he said, ye rode so long alive. Now there isn't a rock for 20 miles, and there isn't a clump of dirt, but cover a man of mine with a rifle cocked on his knee. Now if I had risen my bridle hand as I have held it low, the little jackals that flee so fast, they'd be feasting all in a row. And if I had held my head on my breast as I have held it high, the kite that soars above us now should be gored till she could not fly. And lightly answered the colonel's son, "Do good by bird and beast, but count who come for my broken bones before ye make a feast. If there should follow 1,000 swords to carry my bones away, it'd be like the price of a jackal's meal. It's more than a thief could pay. They'll feed their horses on the standing crop and their men on the garnered grain, and the thatch of their briar will feed their fire when all the cattle are slain. But if you think the price be fair, thy brethren wait to sup. For the hound is kin to the jackal spawn, so howl, dog, and call them up. But if you think the price be high in steel and gear and stack, then give me my father's mare again, and I'll fight my own way back." Now Camel had taken him by the hand and pulled him to his feet. "No talk shall be of dogs," he says, "when wolf and grey wolf meet. May I eat dirt if thou hast heard of me, of deed or breath. But what game of lances brought ye forth to jest at dawn with death?" And lightning answered the colonel's son, "I live by the blood of my clan. So take the mare as my father's gift. By God, she's carried a man." Now the mare, she went to the colonel's son, and she nuzzled against his breast. "We are two strong men," said Camel, "but she loveth the younger best. So she shall go as a lifter's dower, with my turquoise-studded rein, with my broidered saddle and saddlecloth, yes, and silver stirrups twain." Now the colonel's son a pistol drew, and he held it muzzle in. You kick the other from a foe. Would you take the mate from a friend? a gift for a gift, said Kamal, and a limb for the risk of a limb. Thy father has sent his son to me, I'll send my son to him. With that he whistled his only son, who dropped from the mountain crest. He trod the ling like a deer in a spring. He looked like a lance at rest. Here is thy master, said Kamal. He leads the troops and guides, and ye must ride on his left side, as shield on soldier rides, till death or I cut the tie in camp or bed or bread. Thy life is his, and thy fate is to guard him with thy head. And thou must eat the queen's white meat, and all her foes be thine. And thou must harry thy father's hold for peace on the borderline. And thou must make a trooper strong and hack thy way to power. It'll be like the razor to rise Ladour when I am hanged in Peshawar. Now the two men looked each other in the eye, and they could find no fault. And they took the oath of brother and blood on leavened bread and salt. They took the oath of brother and blood on fire and fresh-cut sword, on the heft of the haft of the Khyber knife, and the wondrous name of God. Now the colonel's son, he rode the mare, and Kamal's boy the dun, and the two returned to Fort Baluk, where they'd gone forth but one. And when they raised the quarter guard, full 20 swords flew clear, for there wasn't a man but carried a grudge with that son of a mountaineer. "Ha done," said the colonel's son. "Put up the steel of your sides. Last night ye struck at a border thief. Tonight he's a man of the guides. Or east is east and west is west, and never the twain shall meet till earth and sky stand presently on God's great judgment seat. But there is neither east nor west, nor border, nor breed, nor birth, when two strong men stand face to face, though they come from the ends of the earth."
Hi, Dorothy.
Hello, Mr. Hammond. You're so good and you're smiling, and you look as though you're happy you're doing this. What are you going to talk about?
Well, first of all, you talked about me smiling. I'm smiling because I'm so young. We're just a couple of kids here, Dottie, having fun.
Young at heart.
Yeah. Yeah, my name is Bill Hammond.
Yeah?
Past commander of the Whitman, Post 697.
Yeah?
And I'd like, you asked me what I was going to talk about. One of the things a couple of things that Stanley mentioned, I'd like to expand upon.
Oh, I hope you will.
Yeah, and one of the things, and I think it's important, is the parades. The parades and the displays we have. We have a Memorial Day, and I think it's kind of sad that so very few people come out. And I don't know why they why they do not come out, because and I hate the word I, but I happen to be the captain of the color guard for the post, and we parade on any occasion, and all occasions that we request to. And to parade and see some of the people not come out. Now, we had a picture on the internet, and it's on the bulletin board downstairs, and the colors are passing by.
But nobody knows what to do, or they don't do.
Well, the thing is that all the people are sitting on the sidewalk, nobody salutes, nobody stands up, and in that picture, only one man was standing.
Huh.
And and he is in a wheelchair. He's the one man that got up out of his wheelchair to stand
To show
pay respect
respect.
to the flag
I know.
and to the people who lost their lives.
Yeah.
Now, if I may expand upon that, Dorothy, you know, we're talking about, I happen to speak about World War II.
Sure.
Because I was in World War II.
Sure.
I was in the United States Army infantry. And Harry Blakeman and myself had an opportunity, along with many others, to go down to Washington, D.C., at the dedication of the memorial for World War II.
Yes.
And they have the entire monument consists of smaller monuments from each state.
I see.
And each one of those smaller monuments is a granite stone with a hole in the middle.
And names on it.
No.
No.
Just says Massachusetts, Iowa,
I get
Tennessee, and it's just the state. But each one of those monuments has a hole in it to represent the people who are now missing, who died and gave their lives.
Oh, I see.
And there is also, on that monument,
I've wondered what that was. Thank you for telling me that, because I've wondered, you know, when you see the picture,
it's a beautiful monument.
I said, what in the world? Now it makes sense.
Yes. Now, they have a wall that's very similar to the Vietnam Wall. The only thing is that there are no names on it.
I see.
If they put names on it, it would be miles long, and they just couldn't do that.
I see.
Okay, so what they did is they put stars on this black granite wall, gold stars. Now, on that wall, they have columns of stars. And in each column, there is 16 stars.
Yeah?
And there are 250 columns.
Oh, I
Now, if you do the arithmetic, 16 times 250, it comes out to 4,000.
Yeah?
So that's 4,000, and these are Americans who gave their lives
Lives, yeah.
so that you and I can be sitting here free.
It's safe. And
Now, of those 4,000 stars, each star represents 100 people who gave their lives to
oh,
keep.
yes.
And if you do the arithmetic again,
Yeah, yeah.
4,000
That's a lot.
times 100, 400,000. So that's a lot of people
Who
who
gave
gave
their
their lives. And if you can't go and come out on Memorial Day or Veterans Day, or when these people try to pay respects to the fallen heroes, they gave their life. They gave their all for this country. And to come down and watch the flag go by, not only that, but when the flag goes by, take your hat off, hold your hand over your heart. Just out of respect. Yes,
Have
Dorothy.
you talked to the schools at all about teaching it?
Yes, we have. Now, Harry Blakeman, Clint Jenkins, and myself have gone to schools. In fact, today, Dorothy, we just came back from a meeting of the Daughters of the American Revolution, who invited us down to speak to them. And we spent a couple of hours down at their meeting place, and we spoke to them about veterans.
Sure.
And the three of us are all World War II.
Sure, yeah,
Now,
right.
Clint Jenkins and Harry Blakeman, in my book, I know them both, and I know what they've done.
Yeah,
And
right.
these two men, in my book, are American heroes.
Well, of course they are.
Yes, they
Just
are.
as you are too.
Thank
Because,
you.
see, when you support something as strongly as you have, and you have done, given your money, given your time, given your life, really, because in a way, when you do all these things, you're giving your life part of it to help out, and that's wonderful.
Yeah. Now we're the ones who came through.
Yeah.
I was in the United States Army. Harry and Clint were both in the United States Navy.
Yeah.
Clint has medals he'd tell you about when he's on here. How he was on a ship that pulled more American soldiers out of the Pacific Ocean than any other ship.
It was great.
Right, and that was his job. And we all had jobs. And there's so much that has happened.
That's right, that you know about, and nobody, see, the community doesn't know this. I mean, those people that are sitting on the sidewalk, I sometimes feel if I were walking well, I would like to walk up the street and say, get up, get up, get up. There's a teacher and me coming out. They probably say, oh, you go fry an egg.
You know, Dottie, you do so well even now. You do a lot.
Well, I try to get it across to the people that these people gave their lives. Their families were hurt. Their children were hurt. Their wife was hurt. Or if it was a wife, it was the husband was, you know, left to...
Many Americans were left on the battlefield, and the reason they were left on the battlefield is so you and I can be in America here and be free to do a program the way we want to without any government intervention or any government telling us how to do it or what we can do. We're free. Yeah. And freedom costs, freedom is very expensive, you know.
Well, freedom is very, it vanishes. You know, you reach out for it, and it's not there.
Yes.
Unless you people have been like your veterans who dared to stand and say, we are going to be counted, and that's it. And you're not going to tell us that we cannot be free men, because we are free men. And that's the way it's going to be.
You know, we're telling these daughters of the American Revolution, the daughters of the American Revolution today, that we could have lost that war just in the Battle of Bastogne alone, the Battle of the Bulge.
Yeah. And
because our supply lines were stretched out 500 miles. And if the Germans had captured Antwerp Harbor,
they would have had it.
We would have no supplies.
No, see.
You know? And that could have changed the entire complex of the war.
That's right. See, you don't realize, unless you're a general or somebody who studies and knows what's going on, because the ordinary public does not know. I know that those people probably, if you said to them who are sitting on the side, why are you doing that? Why aren't you sure? Well, I respect the flag.
Yeah. They don't know that they should stand up. They don't know that they should place their hand over their heart. Yeah.
It's so sad.
Yeah, well,
because,
yes.
You know, really, because it just isn't, it's one of those things that you wish that you could be a fly on the wall and buzz in their ear and say, get up, get up.
You know, and during the war, there were soldiers and there were sailors, and they fought hard and they did things. But there were other hardships during World War II that people aren't cognizant of it. For example, gas rationing, where people could only get 3 gallons of gas a week to go to their work or whatever. There was meat rationing. There were families who had multi-children in the service, in my family alone.
Yeah.
My dad was in the Navy. He was a chief boatswain mate on a cruise in World War I, held the Pacific middleweight champion, and in World War II he went back in the Navy and was in World War I and World War II.
Again.
The 5 Sullivan brothers, they lost all five brothers.
Yeah.
War is horrible. War is hell. War is hell. But you have to fight for your freedom. Freedom.
Well, when you have people who do not have the same values that you do, and they are not Christian, they are not anything. I mean, you don't have to be a Christian to be a good person. I would never, you know, denigrate that. But I am trying to say that we need to say to people, look, what you do, your body language, your words, your way of talking to your neighbors, it's all important. It all means something. if you do it right. But you've got to do it right, you know, you've got to.
How much time do we have, Steve?
About another 3 minutes.
Okay. Now, we spoke about 400 Americans
Yes,
losing their lives in World War II.
yeah.
Sometimes people don't understand 400,000, but they do understand one.
Yes, they do.
Can I give you a little poem that brings out the one?
Sure, of course.
And I've done this before many times, but I love doing it, and if we get one more person to hear it, I think it's important.
Gloria is
And it's
very-
called,
Yes, Gloria, my daughter, who's with the Christian school.
I know her well.
Looks forward to you three coming
Yes.
and talking to the children. And you know, the children are very respectful.
oh, very respectful.
See, they know.
But the poem goes like this. It's called Young Fellow My Lad, and it's written by Robert W. Service. Where are you going, young fellow my lad, on this gleaming day of May? I'm going to join the colors, Dad. They're looking for men, they say. But you're only a boy, young fellow my lad. You're not obliged to go. Why, I'm 17 1/4, Dad, never so strong, you know. So you're off to war, young fellow my lad, and you look so fit and bright. I'm awful sorry to leave you, Dad, but I know I'm doing right. Well, God bless you and keep you, young fellow, my lad. You're all of my life, you know. Don't worry, I'll soon be back to you, Dad. But I'm also proud to go. Why don't you write, young fellow, my lad? I watch the mail each day. I miss you so, and I'm awful sad. It's months since you went away. And I had a fire in the parlor, and I'm keeping it burning bright. Until my boy comes home, I sit into the quiet night. What's the matter, young fellow, my lad? No letter again today. And why does the mailman look so sad and sigh as he turns away? Now I hear him tell that we gained new ground. It was an awful price we paid. God grant, my boy, that you're safe and sound, but I'm afraid. Afraid. Well, they told me the truth, young fellow, my lad, and you'll not come home again. And all the dreams I've had and the hopes that I've nursed in vain. So you passed in the night, young fellow, my lad, but you proved in the cruel test of the bursting shells and the battle hell. My boy was one of the best. So you'll live and you'll live, young fellow, my lad, in the gleam of that evening star, in the wood-nosed wild and the smile of a child and all the sweet things that are. And you'll never die, my wonderful lad. Well, this world is noble and true. For all of our beauty, our hopes, and our joys, we owe to our lads like you.
Yeah. That's a beautiful poem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did he
It's very meaningful.
Did he lose a son?
Pardon me?
Did he lose a son, the one who wrote that?
No, in fact, it's very interesting. Robert W. Service was during World War I, was a conscientious objector,
Yeah.
and his brother was in the infantry, and his brother got killed. And as soon as his brother got killed, right away he listed into the army, became a medic, and went overseas, and was on the battlefield, and was in the real thick of it. And when he got out, he wrote a beautiful book that is called The Rhymes of a Red Cross Man.
Oh.
And I'm telling you, the poems that are in that book are so beautiful.
And so deeply searching.
Right. So Dorothy, I want to say thank you for having me.
Well,
I'm so grateful to you.
I'm so delighted that you came, and I can't tell you, young men, enough how much I appreciate being able to let the people know what goes on with the VFW, and that the members do not just retire into a room and sit there in a
No, we
wheelchair.
don't fade away.
No, you don't.
So thanks, kid. I appreciate you.
Come again.
Yeah.